Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, June 7th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 283 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day brings us to Massachusetts, where Governor Charlie Baker had a message for state lawmakers yesterday when he told assembled reporters, quote, "I'm not going to tell the legislature how to do their jobs. I just want some progress on executing on the job, which means that I would hope sometime soon we would see a budget and a bill on marijuana. They really need to get something to our desk so we can review it, respond accordingly, and get going," unquote. Governor Baker was referring to the fact that Massachusetts state lawmakers have yet to pass either their annual budget bill or a bill regulating adult use marijuana as mandated by voters in the fall. This is a story we've been tracking as it's developed, with news yesterday of a call by State House Robert DeLeo to suspend negotiations over the House and Senate's conflicting versions of the marijuana legalization bill until the budget bill is agreed upon. The state doesn't have a hard and fast deadline to get their work done by, but the pressure is on to get both bits of state business done, so we'll keep following things as they progress. Forbes picked up on a story that I saw first published by Alan Brockstein over at New Cannabis Ventures that examines a recent case of potential stock self-promotional activity by cannabis social network and publisher MassRoots. As Alan originally reported, MassRoots was given notice of an official inquiry into the alleged illegal promotion of MassRoots stock, which sells on a so-called over-the-counter market by a company under contract with MassRoots. It's a bit of a convoluted story that can be boiled down to the question of whether the company knowingly buried news of the inquiry by giving it an extremely limited release on one single press release site on the Friday afternoon before the 4th of July. This is definitely a story you should be swinging over to for the full read. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Our final top story of the day has us wrapping up in Maryland, where yesterday Governor Larry Hogan appointed 10 members to his state's Medical Cannabis Commission, reappointing one existing member, filling 3 vacancies, and giving the nod to 6 new commissioners. The Washington Post is reporting that the new slate of board members will boost the number of non-white members from 2 to 4 out of the total board of 16. Regular listeners know that Maryland's medical marijuana industry has been fairly embroiled in controversy from the start, with most of the drama springing from the state's decision not to factor racial diversity into the business license awarding process. That's something state lawmakers have moved to rectify by ordering a study on the disproportionate negative impacts on minority communities from the war on marijuana. That study is needed before the state can start to take the racial makeup of a business team into account when handing out cannabis industry licenses. To read more about all the new members of Maryland's Medical Cannabis Commission, swing over to the Washington Post for the full dive in. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast and our weekly show Marijuana Today, as well as the MJ Today Media newsfeed, formerly known as the Forefront Daily Headlines email. MJ Today Media exists to get the news and analysis you need into your hands when you need it. There's no fluff and there's no extra chafe to get between you and all the right information needed to keep a leg up on the competition. With how fast our industry is changing on a day-to-day basis, you can't afford to be behind the knowledge curve. That's why you need to listen to our podcasts and subscribe to our email newsletters. To listen to the weekly, roughly hour-long show Marijuana Today, just open up mjtodaypodcast.com. That's mjtodaypodcast.com. You can also find all our shows on iTunes by searching for the term marijuana. And to subscribe to the MJ Today Media newsfeed, which packs all the day's headlines, all 50 or 60 of them, into an easy-to-read, state-by-state format that hits your email news box every Monday through Friday morning, and on Saturdays, if you're a premium supporter, just swing over to mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. One more time, that's mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. Hook in today to MJ Today Media and power up your marijuana industry mojo. All right, time for the blitz. Colorado Public Radio is a good piece up examining the changing attitude of employers in Colorado in regards to pre-employment drug screening for marijuana use. As you might guess, it's getting harder and harder to find people in the Mile High State, and really any legal marijuana state for that matter, who can pass a marijuana drug test. With a tight job market limiting the pool of available employees, more and more Colorado companies are opting to skip out on testing whether their new potential hires get high, with the best example being the Denver Post, who actually drug tested employees for cannabis a couple years ago, even as it was starting up a publication called The Cannabist. This is another good one to click over for the read and the listen. Chris Goldstein over at Philly.com looks at how Pennsylvania is rolling out their medical marijuana system and finds fault for the state's decision to only allow patients to use marijuana products found on the high side of the cannabis price spectrum. As Chris points out, the cheapest cannabis products you can buy on the general legal market is loose marijuana flower, which can go for as little as $20 for an eighth of an ounce, or even lower when dispensaries pull out the sales marker. On the other side of the price spectrum are the more processed products like vape cartridges, edibles, and concentrates, which can go for 5 or even 10 times the cost per unit of Stony than flower does. And of course, Pennsylvania's law only allows for dispensaries to sell those higher priced products, with flower being strictly banned. That's going to be an issue for some patients who might find themselves spending upwards of 4 digits per month keeping stocked up in medicine. Rolling Stone sent a reporter to Nevada to soak up the energy from this past weekend's opening of their adult use marijuana market, with registered medical shops being given the green light to sell to adult use customers ahead of next year's rollout of proper adult use dispensaries. The Rolling Stone piece is a good one to open up for the full read to get a flavor for how the state welcomed a new legal vice into its portfolio of potential fun. A number of legal marijuana dispensaries in Alaska are reporting that Facebook has been taking down their official business pages, leading to difficulties in marketing to customers. This is an issue that's popped up a number of times over the past year or two for the industry as a whole, with social networks like Facebook and Twitter responding to legal marijuana in ways that are at times inconsistent. The state of Colorado has awarded its first 2 business licenses to transport medical and adult use marijuana. A new state law allows for the granting of the new license type, which will give companies the right to transport and store cannabis for their customers. Prior to the passage of the new law, if a delivery company were to be struck by, say, a snowstorm while making a delivery run, instead of being able to hunker down and wait a day or two for the roads to clear, they would be obligated to return any undeliverable cannabis to their shipping clients. Anthony Johnson over at Weed News has a good story up about the impending passage of Oregon House Bill 2198, which would establish the Oregon Cannabis Commission and give a pathway for medical marijuana cultivators to sell into the adult use market. This is a good one to click over for all the details. And finally for today, the New York Post has a good headline up on their story about former football player Keyshawn Johnson and the way he handled the news that his son, Keyshawn Johnson Jr., a football player at the University of Nebraska, was caught with marijuana. The Post's headline reads, quote, "Keyshawn Johnson overreacts in a big way to son caught with pot," unquote. After his son was busted for marijuana, Mr. Johnson made the decision to pull him from school entirely, forcing him to take a leave of absence from the celebrated Nebraska football team. I get that he wants his son to make good decisions and that technically marijuana is still illegal, but it's pot and the kid's in college. Maybe a little bit of slack would be warranted here. Not my kid. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.